Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9-to-5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it.
Hey everyone, I'm Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Her Podcast. I have an amazing guest with me here tonight, and I am super excited about this amazing conversation we're going to have. And I want to introduce you to Ty Woods. She is a serial entrepreneur, business coach, and grant expert with 15 years of experience helping small businesses secure funding. As the owner of businessgrants.com, she is on a mission to provide entrepreneurs with the resources they need to access capital and scale their businesses. Having a successful secure grant ranging from $50,000 to over $1 million, Ty has specialized in breaking down barriers to funding, particularly for Black business owners who strategically receives fewer approvals and lower amounts of their white counterparts. In 2024, she launched 1 million, 1 billion in tentative, aiming to help 1 million small business owners secure 1 billion in grant funding. With the deep passion of economic and empowerment and ties, that Ty is here to share expert insights and on how entrepreneurs can position themselves for grants, government contracts, and long-term financial success. Hi, Ty. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here. I'm excited about this conversation. You know, a lot of business owners, they're always looking for funding. They're always looking for ways to scale their business. So I appreciate you and what you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So first, Ty, before you end up getting into grant funding and writing grants for people, who was Ty before this?
Ty is just a girl from South LA who had a big dream to one day own a company and to make a difference in the world. I'm a believer. I have a believer of Christ. I have a strong faith background. I went through a lot of turmoil in my earlier ages when I was a teenager and a young adult. I ended up homeless and living in a homeless shelter. And that's where I found my purpose. I wanted to do something more. I realized I never want to be homeless again. And I started this journey of creating systems. I knew there was a system that would work for me. And so I just went on an education binge. And for over the next 7 years, between the time I was homeless until the time I started my first business, I continued to grow, learn, back to college because I was a college dropout. I went back to college, ended up graduating valedictorian. I became an ambassador for said college, and I ended up going to get my MBA at Kennesaw State University, where I also graduated at the top of my class. And that's when I started my first company and sold that company within the first 2 years. And I realized that I had a knack for raising money that was easy for me. So Ty before the business was always this Ty, the ambitious, resilient Ty, the person who never gave up, even in the midst of trials and tribulations. I'm also married to an amazing man, and I have bonus. I have a bonus child and 2 amazing kids. And that's who I am when I'm not running $1 million companies.
Wow. So looking back, what lessons did your hardship teach you about resilience and entrepreneurship?
Well, you know what? A lot of times when you're in it, you don't think, oh my gosh, there's a big testimony that's going to come out of this. You're not thinking that. You're just thinking survival, right? You're just thinking like, I want to just be able to come out of this and not be insane on my mind. I want to have my mind intact. I wanted to have my spirit intact. I don't want to have hatred towards, certain individuals who didn't help me or who I felt should have helped me at the time. And what I had to do was I had to build a cocoon around my heart, because you can easily go over into self-pity, which can turn into a self-hatred.
Yes.
And it's really hard to come out of that. I felt myself diving deep. And if I didn't reel myself back in, I think I would have been one bitter, bitter person. And so one of the things that I learned, the main thing that I learned, was that I cannot hold on to unforgiveness, whether it's unforgiveness of myself for making poor choices that landed me in certain situations, or unforgiveness of the people who I loved, who I felt should have helped me not be in that situation in the first place. Either way, I had to forgive myself and then extend that forgiveness to others. Otherwise, I would have been harboring this, and it would have just ended up killing me from the inside out.
That is so true. So different people that have a business or trying to press forward and having those things in the past, holding on to them, what advice do you have for them to how to keep faith and how to forgive and move forward in their life, and how that can eventually block their blessings as well by holding on to it?
You got to let it go. You got to let it go. That is so easy. I know I'm saying it, and you're like, but you don't know what they did to me, and you don't know. Look, you don't know what you did to God, but yet He still sacrificed Himself for you. Yet, while we were yet in the middle of all of the bad stuff that we were doing, God still loves us. So, if that's the case, and you're forgiven, then who are you not to forgive others? We've been forgiven of so much more. The offenses that we have done to other people, we've been forgiven of so much more, but yet now we can't extend forgiveness, So it's better to forgive, because it's almost like unforgiveness is like you drinking the poison and hoping the other person die.
Yeah.
You sitting there, go, 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 die, die. No, you're dying, baby, on the inside, slowly. So you got to let it go. You got to let it go. And then the moment, the moment I released the anger that I had, and I would say towards my parents, because that was the majority of my anger was towards them, especially my father. When I let it go and I allowed him to be in my wedding, which my husband thought was amazing, because he was like, I cannot believe that you are allowing him to walk you down the aisle. He didn't earn that right. I said, I know he didn't. I know he did. We have an amazing relationship today, but I did not want him to walk me down the aisle, but I forgave him. And a part of that forgiveness was to allow him to try to rebuild, because he wanted to. And that was one of the ways that I allowed him. So you may not want to rebuild. You may not want to rebuild. That person probably really did offend you, and you might just need to stay disconnected. But disconnection and you being disconnected and you forgiving has nothing to do with them. They don't even have to be in the picture for you to forgive them. You don't even have to go to them and say, I forgive you. You can say to yourself, you know what? I choose to forgive so-and-so. And I will move forward now in what's the purpose that I have for me, because I cannot allow other people to stop me from moving in my own purpose. I wouldn't be where I am today if I was stuck in the 80s when he left.
That's so true. Well, it's a blessing that you did let your father walk you down. And I know sometimes it feels hurtful, but at the same time, it can feel good because you know that you overcome something that you really didn't want to do. So having that experience and giving him that experience, at the end of the day, sometimes we have to just let things go so that we are able to continue to move forward with our lives and feel better and at peace. And I think that is like super amazing for you to have that type of character. Sometimes it's hard for people to even develop that. So I'm proud of you for doing that.
Yeah, it was hard. I'm not even gonna tell you that it wasn't hard.
I
It was
already know.
definitely hard. But I knew I had to do it. I had to do it if I wanted to move forward. And I
Mm,
did. I wanted to move forward. I didn't want to
that-
be stuck.
that's good. That is really good. So, Ty, you've been in the grant space for 15 years, and now you've acquired businessgrants.com. What inspired you to specialize in grants and funding for small businesses? Because, girl, that's a special gift.
Well, because I needed it. I needed it for my own business. So my husband and I in 2008, we started a movement in our 2-bedroom apartment. At the time, we were only married for 3 years. We're 3 years in, and we wanted the kids in our neighborhood, specifically the teens in our area, to have something to do. During that time, the recession was going on. There was a lot of the resources being taken out of schools, and specifically the arts. The arts is always the first to get cut. I'm like, why? Like,
That's
it's
crazy.
not important, they say. But what happened is my husband and I used that as an opportunity. So on Fridays, we would open up our apartment and tell the teens in the neighborhood, hey, you guys come over. We'll have free food and we'll do a little Bible study, but it wasn't called Bible study. We had to say teen talk because we didn't want them to be like, Bible study, I'm not going. No, but it was basically, we wanted teens to be empowered to make positive and good choices, smart choices. And in order to do that, they need the tools. They need to be equipped. It's like you can't tell a football player, I need you to go out there and defend, and then you don't give them the pads, the knee pads, the helmet, and all of the equipment that they need to do the job. Well, we're telling teens to do that every day, but we're not giving them the tools to do the job. And so we said, we need to create an organization around this, because we went from 3 kids in our apartment to 40, and we only had a 2-bedroom. And my husband was like, we got to find another space. Our neighbors our neighbors downstairs, we were on the second level. Our neighbors used to take the broom and just hit the roof because we were making so much noise up there. And eventually we had to go down there and tell them exactly what we were doing, because they were thinking we were throwing parties. And it's like, no, we actually have a community center going on upstairs. And they were like, well, you guys probably should use the community room. So we moved over to the community room, and we grew out of that. And then we asked the local church, hey, can we use your facility? Because these kids are like, it's like multiplying. They were like, you feed them and then they just kept multiplying.
Yeah.
And so by the end of the first year, we had 120 students. 120 students. And we were like, we have something. We have something. What is it called? Opportunity Knocks. We were giving the kids opportunity to explore the arts. So we did Opportunity Knocks. And that where we Googled it, it was not in existence. It was no one using it. So we were like, we got to trademark that name. Okay, we got to talk about trademarks, okay? We had to trademark that name and the logo because it was such a unique name, and it was something that was already that we were doing. We were giving kids the opportunity to explore the arts, but we didn't have any money. We were using our job to pay the money from our paycheck to feed these kids. And then we kept telling the parents like, hey, can you guys pitch in $5 because your kids can eat? And we're feeding them. So the parents started pitching in. And then we're like, okay, they still hungry. We got to get more food. And so we started asking our neighbors, hey, look, we have a team program going on upstairs. Look, these kids are hungry all the time. Every time they come, they just want to eat, eat, eat. And we want to have snacks for them throughout the night. So that's how we keep them. We grew them by the snacks and the food and the arts, but we kept them because they felt at home. They felt a part of something. They felt like they were growing into something that was so big, so much bigger than themselves. Fast forward, this is year 17. We have, last year, we accepted our first second generation student. One of the students from the original 120 had a child and put her child in our program last year, age 6. And that's when it all dawned on me that what we were doing back then, when we just said, well, people say, well, you need money, you need money, you need money. I say, no, you don't. You just need to start. What do you have in your house? I always ask people this. What do you have around you? There are resources that are around you that you don't use, that are free, that you can start right now with. And that's what we did. But ultimately, after we got to a couple hundred students, there's not enough money. I was not making that much money. As the boys, I was working at the Boys and Girls Clubs. I was only making $40,000 a year. And my husband was making $30,000. And we were like, we don't have that much money to be funding this. So we have to learn how to raise money. And so I'm a good writer. I'm already a published author. I was like, I can learn how to do this grant writing thing. So I started just applying for grants, like what people say on Instagram now, just apply for anything, just apply. And I was doing that at first, and I kept getting decline, because I didn't understand the art of grant writing. And I did not understand the grant landscape the way I understand it today. And so when people ask me, how did you get started writing grants? It's because I needed the money. I needed to learn how to raise money outside of myself, outside of my own network, stop asking my Facebook friends all the time to donate $1, donate $5. People were like, why are you always asking for money? Well, we doing something big over here. I mean, people were helping out and they really, really tried, but I did not come from money. So I didn't have friends that had money. So
that's crazy. Because that's a lot, because I could relate to what you're saying. I had a youth program for young girls, and then I ended up accumulating boys. And next thing you know, I had about 300 kids. But I was using my funding that I was making from my in-home daycare, and I was putting it back into that. Girl, it broke me all the time. It broke me. And eventually I had stopped it because I couldn't find nobody to do grant writing. I couldn't find nobody, and it started to financially burden me. So I ended up just stopping the program. But I understand where you coming from when it takes a lot, and them kids do be hungry, especially when they get out of school. They be so hungry, and they can eat until the end of time. They really can.
It's like bottomless pit. It just keep going. They just keep going. And so I started learning about different government programs, different systems that, feeding kids is one aspect of the program that we could never get rid of, because when we first started, it was our calling card. It was the way that we got them in, like our lead magnet at the time. However, what we realized is that they were actually really hungry. Some of them don't eat at school. The food is nasty. They can't take it. They can't take going home. They go home and they have, parents are working. They don't have a hot meal ready for them at home sometimes. And so they're hungry. And I get it. And then when we went into the after school sector, we realized some of these kids were getting to school at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Here it is, 3 o'clock, and your parents are coming at 5:30. You've been at school now for almost 10 hours, 10, 12 hours.
Yeah.
And all they gave you was this little piece of toast for breakfast and this little tray of food for lunch, no snack.
Yeah.
And you expect for the kids to focus and do their homework after school. That's not happening.
No.
That's not happening. So that's how I started writing those grants. I started telling them what was happening in our programs. Because at first I was writing the grants, like trying to be fancy with my writing and things like that. And I was like, why am I not winning any grants? So I started going to a bunch of grant writing classes. And what I realized was I wasn't telling the story properly.
Oh, okay.
And then I had to become a storyteller. So I started shifting my grant writing to storytelling. And when I started telling the story of little Jamal, who would come to school at 6:30 in the morning and only eat one time, and that when he got home, he actually went to a hotel room where they do not have a kitchen, which means the dinner that he's eating is a TV dinner. You know that's not enough food for a fifth grader, growing boy. He was hungry. He was actually really hungry. And until I can convince them that the kids that's coming to our program after school, some of these kids are going home to some really bad situations. And if we don't give them a hot meal and a snack, that these kids are going to go another day hungry. And that's when I started getting money.
Oh, that is amazing. So what are like some of the biggest misconceptions that small business owners have when it comes to grants? Because I know you were saying like how detailed and storytelling it had to be. So like how can people implement that and understand that their business do have a story and it does have a purpose and how you have to do it?
I always tell people to start with your mission. The way you're going to find a grant is by mission alignment. So if your business does not have a mission, I don't care if it's a for-profit or a nonprofit. All nonprofits, this is in my book, 7 Proven Steps of Building Highly Successful Mission-Focused Businesses. 7 proven steps. One of them is mission alignment. Mission is critical. If you do not have a mission statement, then you are just in business and you have no aim, no goal, and no focus. And what's going to happen is you'll grow to a certain extent, and then it'll start fizzing off because you don't have a mission focus. So what I do is I first help businesses identify their mission. Your why. Now, when it comes to solopreneurs, entrepreneurs who have less than 10 employees or startup companies, your mission is right there. It's inside of you. You have a reason why you started that business. You have a reason why you started that type of business, and you have a reason why you went into business in the first place instead of just going to work for somebody else. So there's 2 reasons. That's 2 reasons. Number 1, the reason why I acquired businessgrants.com is not just so I can have a technology company. No, it was because I was utilizing technology in my former business, and I realized that there were so many small businesses who didn't know how to do this. And that if I can create a platform, a technology that can make it easy for people to apply for grants and demystify it, because it's like, ooh, people think it's so big and spooky, when it's actually not, now that we have AI. And that's why the class that I just finished teaching, grant writing with AI, I teach that class because I want people to understand how easy it is now. And then with the new platform that we're getting ready to release early 2025, mid 2025, is because we knew that AI was going to be the game changer on how people get money for their business and recurring money for their business. And the way that we're going to do that is by mission alignment. So in our app, businessgrants.com app, what they're going to be able to do is put in their mission of their business. Because you can't even move forward without having a mission statement.
Right.
Because your mission statement will be aligned with the mission statement of the funder. And that's how we'll be able to create a match opportunity. It's going to be like a dating app, a dating app for funders and grantees.
Okay.
So the goal is to find alignment. This is as a grant judge. Now I judge grants for the state of Georgia. As a grant judge, the reason why I became a grant judge is because I wanted to know the psychology of how grantees are selected, the psychology behind it. So once I learned that, and I've been judging grants for about 8 years now, once I learned the psychology behind the wins, I started teaching from reverse engineering. Okay, let's take, you already won a grant. How did you win that grant? We're going to reverse engineer this thing. Now we have a grant funder. We have grant funder A, whose mission is to fund education and youth programs. There's a reason why they want to fund only education and youth programs. So you having a restaurant business, even though you feeding people, that's not mission alignment. So stop applying for grants that's not mission alignment, but you don't even know your mission.
That's true.
So then you're going to apply to that particular funder and you're going to get rejected, and you're going to keep getting rejected because you don't know your mission. You're applying to people who do know their mission, and then they're going to be like, we know you don't know your mission because it's evident in this writing. And so we're not going to fund you. So how do you come up with your mission, right? Number one, you look inside and you ask yourself, why did I start this business in the first place? Usually there is some type of, sometimes it's a trauma, a trigger, or a situation or circumstance that happened in your life personally that said, either I never want this to happen again, or I want to make sure that I help as many people as possible to not experience this. There's something that happened or that you experienced or that you saw somebody experience that said, I need to do something about that. Okay, that's one. Number two is you decided to do this as a business because you also want to make money, which is fine. You are a for-profit business. You have to make money. But the question that you have to ask behind that is, what am I making money for? If the answer is only so you can have a better house, better cars, vacations, a higher lifestyle, then that's the wrong answer. Because let me tell you, I know multimillionaires and billionaires who have all that stuff who are still unsatisfied. People committing suicide.
Yeah, they are.
So if the money was all that you needed, why are they committing suicide? Because that money didn't have purpose. So my job is to help you learn it early on so that as more money comes in, you aligning the money with a purpose. Your money should be aligned with a purpose. When you do that, money will find you. I wish I would have brought that check up here. It's downstairs, but I have a check that I keep with me. I take it with me when I do speaking engagements. It's a $50,000 check. That $50,000 was the easiest $50,000 I have ever not applied for. Wait, did you say not applied? I said not. Let me explain. My organization has a website with this mission statement on it, social media with this mission statement on it, and pictures that demonstrate that mission. Our mission is so plastered around everything that we do that even if you go to any of our locations, you can ask a site director, what's the mission statement? And they should be able to recite it. That's how involved we are in making sure that the mission is being pushed and not just these other agendas. The mission is to empower youth to make positive and smart choices while increasing opportunities in the arts, education, community service, and bridging cultures. That's our mission statement. That mission statement is demonstrated in multiple ways, but our primary ways is our after-school programs, our summer programs, and our career academies for teens. And so what we do is we push that in our social channels, and we make sure that the mission is clearly articulated in picture and in word. Wow. So when Genesis, the car company, said on their side, they said, we Googled arts organizations in Georgia that focus on youth. Guess where we came up? Number 2 in the Google search. They clicked on us. They read through she said they went through every page on our website. Then they went to our social media pages and they said, this is the type of organization that we need to get behind. They made the decision. They DM'd me on Instagram asking for a meeting. I thought it was spam until the email address actually had Hyundai, because Genesis, the car company, is owned by Hyundai Corporation. When they had the Hyundai Corporation email address, I was like, wait a minute. This is actually the corporation, Hyundai. They met with us and said, we made a decision to give you guys $50,000 based on what we saw. Can we do a check presentation?
Dang.
That's the easiest $50,000 I ever made.
I bet. It's easy blessing.
That happened 10 years ago. I'm talking about something that happened 8 months ago.
Wow.
It's on our social media page. You can see it. And we holding the big check, me and my husband. And all the because they went to one of our locations, and all the kids surrounding us.
That is amazing. So you successfully secured grants as high as 1 million. What do businesses need to do differently to go after these larger grants?
So I said the first thing, you have to improve your online presence. You have to improve your online presence. I'm telling you, as a grant judge, I have gone on websites and social media pages that look like a 5-year-old was running it.
Wow.
It was so sad. It was so sad. And I thought, well, maybe that's why they need money, because they need to, but no. You have money to improve other things. You find the money to improve it. You need to improve your social and your website, your online presence, your digital presence, because that's your business card now. That is your business card. The second thing is your financials. You should be able to clearly identify where money is going in your business right now. Right now. You're not going to get a $1.5 million grant and you don't even know where your money is going right now.
That's true.
That grant, the largest one I got was 1.5 million over the course of 3 years.
Wow.
And that grant, we would not have won that grant if we did not have all of our ducks in a row. We have a registration with SAM.gov. We have a DUNS number. We have a UEI number. These are things that a lot of people don't know. They just think, oh, I got an LLC and an EIN number, I'm fine.
Yeah.
No. And then you hear people on Instagram, they talking with authority. Yes, start that business. Just get your EIN and LLC and you're good. You can start your business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here like,
it's so much more to it. I even yeah, because even like a lot of people don't know about the certifications that you can have behind it, being a Black-owned business or woman-owned business, things like that, of having those certifications. And when they pull up your name and they will see that, and some people just, they don't know, that's why we're here to educate them.
Yes. So, yes, it's important to have those designations, but even with those designations, you have to have your ducks in a row there because you won't even be able to get the certification.
You ain't lying.
You won't. So I just want people to start where they are. I know you want the $1 million grant, but let's go for the $500, the $1,000 grant, the $2,500 grant, the $5,000 grant. Get you some practice. Let's get you some practice with it. And then once you start getting other grants, this is what you do. We call it in sales the goofy approach, which stands for something. But at the end of the day, people want to know that they're not the first one to give, that they are behind another big company that gave. So our first grant, which we actually have a picture of us holding a $1,000 check from Sam's Club. Okay. When we applied to our next grant, we said, we already won $1,000 from Sam's Club, and now we are anticipating that you come right behind them and also do another $1,000, and they did. And then we used that company and Sam's Club, and we just kept adding the companies. Now we have a list of corporations now. Now at this stage, I just talk about the big grant. So I'll say, we got the 1.5 million from the Department of Education. We got 100,000 from Community Foundation. I only mentioned the large ones now, but back then, because now we're applying for 100,000 plus, 50,000, 100,000 plus now. And in order to get that kind of money, they need to know that you've gotten that kind of money before. And when they see that, they'll say, oh, well, they must have been vetted by the other companies because they wouldn't have given them $100,000 if they weren't on the up and up. Mm-hmm. So that's what they use. They use the approach of somebody else has vetted them, so I don't have to vet them. So let me go ahead and give them $100,000.
Easy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's that easy. It literally is that easy.
Oh, that is an easy blessing. So Black business owners receive fewer approvals and lower funding amounts compared to the white counterparts. What systemic barriers contribute to this issue, and how can Black entrepreneurs overcome them?
Well, knowledge is the number one systemic barrier because it's not something that's taught to us as small business owners. If you do know about grants, you don't have the knowledge of how to apply for them. And then once you apply for them, you don't have the other things in place, like maybe you need to have the designations for certain grants, but you need to have, that's why when I teach businesses, I teach from the lens of this is the requirement. I don't want you don't have to use your certification. I've never used my certification to get a major grant. I've never used my certification because I want to show them that I'm just as qualified as anyone else. I have everything, have everything that you're asking for. So then the next step to that is relationship. So if I have all, because that back in the day, that was the whole initiative behind affirmative action. When affirmative action was instituted, they didn't say, oh, give the job to the Black person because you need diversity. They said it has to be apples for apples. So if you have someone who is just as equally or more talented than the non-white counterpart, that you should hire the non-white employee. That was what happened during affirmative action. Then circle to the late 2000s when they instituted DEI, which is just a revamp of affirmative action.
Right. Okay.
The whole premise was about the playing field being even, because it has never been even. Today it's more even than yesterday. Yes, I do admit it's more even than 10 years ago. It's more even than definitely 20 or 30 years ago. But there's still work to do. There's still work to do. So my job as the CEO of businessgrants.com is to be there on the federal level with my voice saying, hey, there are still major funding, government funding, that is not going to Black-owned businesses, that are not going to brown-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses. You have $50 billion going, and I said billion plus, going to businesses that are non-minority owned. And you wonder why there's still if you look at the inner cities across America, what color are they?
Yeah, they white.
And I want people to understand that it's never been about DEI initiatives. It's always been about fairness, leveling the playing field. So right now, Target's under fire, and a lot of companies actually, Sam's Club, Walmart, a lot of major companies have completely eliminated their DEI initiatives. There are some companies that said, you know what, we're going to keep them in place because we saw that we had increased productivity and that it is a fair policy. But because there wasn't a federal guideline making people do DEI, they said, we don't have to do it. So we're not going to do it. What they're not understanding is that there was a reason why you had to do it in the first place. That's the premise behind with grant funds and funding, period. Because I can say the same thing on the VC side, venture capital, angel investors, when it comes to raising money. On the venture capital side, so if you were raising money for your for-profit company and you needed VC funding, it's there's only 0.5% go to women of color. 0.5% of the $100 billion that went out through VC funds. 0.5%. That is very, very sad.
It is.
There are so many women, Black women-owned companies, but also just minority-owned, period. And still less than 10% as a whole, as a minority as a whole. That's everybody. That's the Hispanic-owned companies, the Black-owned companies. And so what makes them stand out is those founders, they get themselves in the room where those people are. And when you get yourself in the room, then you can sell yourself and your company. But some people don't have access to those rooms because number one, those rooms are expensive to get into.
Yes.
And number two, you don't have an invitation in the first place. You most likely have to be invited by somebody else if it's a private event. But the billionaires and the multi-millionaires, there is an ecosystem. The money stays up there. It doesn't really trickle down unless it's through employees. And it's important as business owners that we actually find our spot in the room. We got to get in the room, though. We got to get in the room. So I'm getting in the room. There's people letting me in who don't look like me, but they know I need to be in that room.
Yeah.
And there are, I just posted this on my social media yesterday. I said, don't worry, my brother and sister. Once I get in that room, I'm holding the door open for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, you can't come, you got to be correct. You got to come correct. If I'm going to let you in the room, you better believe I would have vetted you by this. Because remember, it's been 17 years I've been in business. I built something that has credibility in the marketplace. And I have now established myself as a thought leader in this space. So if I hold a door open for somebody, it's because I truly believe that what they have to offer needs to be in that room too.
That is amazing. So what can entrepreneurs do to stay ahead of policy changes and affect funding opportunities?
You got to keep your ears to the ground. The news does not always tell you the whole story.
No.
I always say, if you don't know who your senators are, your congressmen are, I need for everybody who hears the sound of my voice, you need to make an introduction. If you are a small business owner and you have never met your elected representatives, you are already behind the 8 ball. They need to know who you are and what you do in that city. Number one, opportunities come through that. We have a senator prior to this presidential election. There was some funding that was in what's called appropriations. So there are appropriations committees, and those appropriation committees says whatever money that's left over from what's not spent from the federal budget, we, the appropriations committee, get to decide which nonprofits it can only go to nonprofit organizations. Which nonprofits do we want to give this money to? Well, because I'm in the room, right? And now my organization is at the top of the mind of the senator who says, you know what? I want to fund this organization. They're doing some amazing work. Yeah, I spoke to one of the founders, and they said they're doing amazing work in the city. Let's go ahead and put their name down on the list. Mm-hmm. I get an email, hey, the senator wants to put your name down on the list, but you know you have to officially apply for the program. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. You get information from people about stuff that is not even made public yet.
Yeah.
It's called favor.
Yes.
And favor is not fair. Okay. And this appropriations committee said, we got about $1 million extra that we can go ahead and throw you away. Oh, it's just $1 million. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, with the formation of new federal agencies that's reducing spending, this particular funding was actually taken away from us. And so we are experiencing some things that a lot of companies are experiencing through this transition. I do not speak negatively publicly about any elected officials.
That's good.
I do not do that. Everybody has a reason why they're doing what they're doing. I
Yeah.
will say that the federal funding cuts and the department that was created to find waste and spending, may not know the full scope of how it trickles down to the nonprofits ultimately, and it ends up being an indirect hit to the people who need it the most. And
Yeah.
so, unfortunately, that's going to be this trickle down effect is going to start occurring, and it's already started, and it's going to really be it get even worse before it gets better, because
Right.
you can't necessarily bring in non-government people to run a government that don't understand government.
That's true.
So right now we're scrambling to figure out where we're going to find the other $1 million, but that's okay. I'm just going to have to work a little harder. But
Yeah.
$1 million has been raised before, and it will be raised again.
Yeah. You ain't lying. That's the truth. So
But
you have a book, you got a book coming out. Can you share a little bit about what the readers can expect and who is it for?
yes, so I have my book here, 7 Proven Steps to Building a Highly Successful Mission-Focused Business. And one of the things that I wanted to focus on was strategies for grant development. The strategies that we use in our company keeps us funded. And so in this book, I dive deep, and it's not even that long. I think it's 40 pages or
Okay.
so. It's a quick read. It will take you maybe 30 minutes to read it. Number one, it does focus on how defining whether or not you are a mission focused business. And a lot of people think they are mission focused, but they're not. So I clearly explain what a mission focused business is and how to move from just being a for profit company to being a mission focused business.
Mhm.
And this book is what I like about this book is we can teach from this book in the universities, so that when they get their business degree, they come out the gate thinking about this, thinking
Okay.
about building a mission focused business. And if we have more mission focused businesses out there that are for profit companies, then we can have a better world.
Mm,
That
that's so true.
that's the goal. 1
Yeah.
million mission focused businesses are going to be doing 1 million mission focused tasks.
Hmm. So you already launched 1 million, 1 billion in tentative.
Yes. So the 1 million, this is when I was thinking about this. I was out to lunch with a friend, and she was asking me, well, what do you want to accomplish with businessgraphs.com? I said, well, you know, there are billions of dollars that's not being spent, that's being wasted in the grant world. And I really think that there are mission focused businesses that deserve that money, but they just don't know how to apply for it. They don't know how to get it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to teach, and I'm going to keep teaching until 1 million businesses get access to $1 billion worth of funding collectively.
Mm,
So my goal is just to make sure that they have all of the tools that they need in place so that they can apply for the grant and win the grant. I want them to win.
yes. That is amazing. So can you tell us how people can connect with you and learn about your business grants? Because I see that you have different different things that you offer as far as business launch and platinum package,
Yeah.
profit startup, and also like grant consulting and mega business grant database. You have so many different things. How can
Yes.
people connect with you and have you help them with their business? And also you can at least consult them and see if you are a fit for them as well.
Yes. So I always tell people start with a consultation. Just start with a basic consultation because I could tell you whether or not you need to start with our launch program, which is from scratch. Like we just need to scratch your idea altogether and start from the beginning. Or we can start with your existing idea and build it so that it's grant fundable. And some people are like, well, I have a nonprofit organization and we're already, maybe we won 1 or 2 grants, but we really don't have a system. And that's where we create the development system for you. So there are so many different ways that we can help small businesses. So I just tell people, start with a talk with me. Just talk with me. And they can do that through, they can send me an email, Ty@businessgrants.com. They can visit me on social media, Ty Woods Get Grants. Ty Woods Get Grants. That's my tag name, Ty Woods Get Grants. And lastly, my consulting company, info@dev180.com.
Okay.
Info@dev180.com.
So what advice would you want to leave here today, letting business owners know how valuable and important it is to get grants and help your business expel?
Start. If you haven't started, just start. Start with what you have. If you have started, get your ducks in a row. And those of you who are rock stars and you're killing it and you're like, Ty, I just need to go to the next level. Let's go.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Ty. I really appreciate you. I enjoyed all this informative information that you have.
I apologize. My 2-year-old just walked in right at the end and you're going to have her in your audio. I'm so sorry.
Okay. That's okay.
But thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Life Her Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and listen to Life Her on all audio platforms. Thank you.
Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9-to-5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it.